I don't think I can do that by myself, of course. I can only do that not only with the cooperation and consultation of other leaders. But it's also other citizens of the world. All of you and people in various regions. They've got to want more justice and more peace in order for us to achieve it. Sometimes the United States is viewed as, on the one hand, the cause of everybody's problem. Or on the other hand, the United States is expected to solve everybody's problem. And we are a big, powerful nation and we take our responsibilities very seriously, but we can only do so much. Ultimately, the people in these countries themselves have to partner with us because we have problems in our own country that we have to solve. But hopefully, I'm also lifting up certain universal principles and ideals that all of us can embrace and share. All right, it's a woman's turn. It's a young woman's turn. I've got to let's see who is back here. No. It's a young lady's turn. Okay, this young lady right here since the microphone is right there. Question, good afternoon, Mr. President, and welcome to Malaysia. Gathering from what you've said, I think it's a shared consensus that youth worldwide can be the catalyst. Planting the seeds for an early conditioning on certain global issues here. So my question is, how exactly can America lead us youth internationally in championing such issues, for example? Climate change, women empowerment, poverty eradication, the goal being to bring the human race together? It appears that a lot of policies have been put in place. But a lot of the policies that have been put in place by the Gen Zers, the baby boomers. People like us, the Gen Ys, we don't have a say in this policy. So we are supposed to champion them, but how are we supposed to do all these things? President Obama, I'm trying to figure out which generation I am. You got baby boomers, then Gen X, and then there's a Gen Y. We're on Y. Is that Z, are they here yet, or that's next? Well, first of all, just to be very specific, as I said in my speech. Part of the reason that I like to meet with young people is to get their suggestions and their ideas. But then what we try to do is set up a process and a network of young leaders who can share ideas with each other and with us, to let us know how they think we can empower you. So coming out of this meeting, there will be mechanisms through social media and in our embassies in each of the 10 ASEAN countries where we're going to be bringing together youth leaders to talk to each other about their plans. What their priorities are, how they think the United States can be most helpful. And we're going to take your suggestions. And let's take the example of something like climate change. The voice of young people on this issue is so important because you are the ones who are going to have to deal with the consequences of this most significantly. I rode with Prime Minister Najib from our press conference to the new Magic Center that's been set up. Entrepreneurial center that came out of our Global Entrepreneur Summit that was hosted here in Malaysia. and on the ride over, it hadn't started raining yet, but you could tell it was going to be raining soon. And he said that here in Malaysia you've already seen a change in weather. Patterns. It used to be that the dry season and the rainy season was very clear. Now it all just kind of is blurring together. Now, not all of that can be directly attributed precisely to climate change. But when you look at what's been happening all across the country or all around the world, there's no doubt that weather patterns are changing. It is getting warmer. That is going to have impacts in terms of more flooding. More drought, displacement. It could affect food supplies. It could affect the incidences of diseases. Coastal communities could be severely affected. And what happens when humans are placed under stress is the likelihood of conflict increases. There is a theory that one of the things that happened in Syria to trigger the protests that resulted in the terrible violent efforts to suppress them by President Assad was repeated drought in Syria that drove people off their land. So they could no longer afford to make the traditional living that they had made. Now, whether that's true or not we don't know precisely. But what we do know is that you see in communities that are under severe weather pressure drought. Famine, food prices increasing, they're more likely to be in conflict. And you're going to have to deal with this, unless we do something about it. So the question is, what can we do? Every country should be coming. Up with a climate action plan to try to reduce its carbon emissions. In Southeast Asia, one of the most important issues is deforestation. In Indonesia and Malaysia, what you've seen is huge portions of tropical forests that actually use carbon and so reduce the effects of climate change, reduce carbon being released into the atmosphere. And warming the planet, they're just being shredded because of primarily the palm oil industry. And there are large business interests behind that industry. Now, the question is, are we going to in each of those countries say how can we help preserve these? Forests while using a different approach to economic development that does less to damage the atmosphere? And that means engaging then with the various stakeholders. You've got to talk to the businesses involved. You've got to talk to the government, the communities who may be getting jobs because their first priority is feeding themselves. So if you just say, we've got to stop cutting down the forests, but you don't have an alternative opportunity for people, then they may just ignore you. So there are going to be all kinds of pieces just to that one part of the problem. And each country may have a different element to it. The point, though, is that you have to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. You have to say, this is important. You don't have to be a climate science expert. But you can educate yourselves on the issue. You can discuss it with your peer groups. You can organize young people to interact with international organizations that are already dealing. With this issue. You can help to publicize it. You can educate your parents, friends, co-workers. and through that process, you can potentially change policy. So it will take years. It will not happen next week. But our hope is that through this network that we're going to be developing, that we can be a partner with you in that process. So I just want to check how much time do we have here? Who is in charge? Moderator Wu, we've got time, Mr. President. President Obama, how much time? Moderator Wu, a couple more questions. President Obama, a couple more questions, all right, because I just want to make sure that I'm being fair here. All right, it's a guy's turn. Let's see. All right, how about this guy? Because I like his haircut, the guy with the spiky hair right there. Question. President Obama, well, I had an extensive conversation with Prime Minister Najib about his development strategy. First of all, Malaysia is now a middle-income country. It's done much better than many other countries in per capita income and growth over the last 2 decades. And there's been some wise leadership that has helped to promote Malaysian exports and to help to train its people. You've got high literacy rates, which is critically important. Investing in people is the single most important thing in the knowledge economy. Traditionally, wealth was defined by land and natural resources. Today the most important resources is between our ears. and Malaysia has made a good investment in young people. So that continues to be, I think, the most important strategy for growth in the 21st century. And in the United States, my main focus is improving our education system and lifelong learning. Because part of what's changed in the economy in the 20th century. You got a change at a company, you might stay there for 30 years, things didn't change that much. Now you may be at one company and that company may be absorbed. And you might have to retrain for a new job because the thing that you were doing before has been made obsolete because of technology. So we have to keep on investing in not only elementary school and secondary school and even universities. But in the United States, for example, we have a system of community colleges and job training where somebody who's in their 30s or even 40s or 50s can go back. Get retrained, get more skills, adapt to a new industry, and then be a productive citizen. That's a critical investment that needs to be made. The second thing that I know Prime Minister Najib is focused on, and this applies throughout the region, is if you want to move to the next level of development. Then you have to open up an economy to innovation and entrepreneurship. The initial push for growth in Southeast Asia initially started with exporting raw materials. And then shifted to manufacturing and light assembly and being part of the global supply chain. And that's all a very important ladder into development. But now a lot of wealth is being created by new products and new ideas.